We're coming out dangerous.
Rockets going off.
Sometimes the brightest stars shine for the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They heard us all across Tallahassee after that one.
We got to bring home the W.
Oh yeah, we're gonna destroy them.
Put them on the Heisman watch.
They're fine, man.
Big Ben Player of the Year.
We're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I played a little adult league goalie.
I felt like I scored in the World Cup, but I didn't even score.
Controversy? Question mark?
Pure chaos.
Go crazy was insane.
Chris Petley, he was the defensive MVP of the 2019 season.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in my prime right now. Let's go.
Alrighty, and welcome back to the TallySCtalk podcast. If you're binging us, as you know, we just got done with the first half recap and some other big picture stuff, so we're getting ready to break down half number 2. If you haven't been listening at this now binge-worthy podcast series, Trent and I were just getting into the second half analysis of the Week 1 game, Jacksonville and TSC going at it. So, at the break, TSC down 2-0. We make a couple substitutions. We're going into the locker room. Coach Bruno pumps them up. And then what comes out? Trent, tell me your thoughts a little bit about the second half as we start things off.
Yeah, so I actually love the substitutions to start off the second half. You put out Mateus Bittencourt, the reigning 2021 Big Ben Player of the Year. So Mateus Bittencourt from Maclay, the Maclay Marauders, was subbed in, as well as David Monroe. He came in as a defender. Bittencourt, kind of a downhill midfield player. As soon as I saw him receive the ball, I knew that was Mateus Bittencourt because he wasn't out there in the first half. And I've been hearing some big things. So as soon as he got that ball, I knew that he was something special. And then Drew Daunt moved up to the midfield. He was also a Maclay Marauder. So a little chemistry maybe Coach Bruno was trying to play into there, just having some guys familiar with each other who know how to ping balls back and forth, some quick 1-2s such as that. But early on in the start of the second half, in the 46th minute, Justin Laird, the striker, got demolished. I believe it was right outside the box, got taken down for a Tallahassee free kick. And that was a pretty legitimate chance for TSC, just sent the ball over the top of the goal, just went outside. But Bittencourt was right there with Daunt to link the midfield together, and Drew Daunt dished it into the front line. And unfortunately, it just didn't quite get into the back of the net. But some good showing right there, right out the gates in the start of the second half. Bittencourt was huge in the entire second half, had a couple of big challenges, some wins, kind of sending the team on the counterattack. And then in the 57th minute, we had Justin Laird subbed off. And like we said earlier, he was kind of waving at some fans, just thanking them for their love, and they were eating it up, So just really cool to see somebody involved here in the local community, selling medical devices, maybe to somebody, one of your relatives. And here he is playing for your local soccer club, giving it his all. So just really fun stuff there from Justin Laird.
There you go, man. You got Justin. He's selling hips and ankles to grandma, and then, cousin Size helping her driving back to forth to rehab. Like you said, family affair there, Trent. You got it going. But, yeah, so Laird comes off in the 57th, so Nick Ramsden comes on. Kind of a really interesting switch offensively. A lot of changes getting into the mix there because it seemed they kind of transitioned into more of a 4-4-2. And then so you put Ramsden up top. Nsimba looked like he was ripped up into a striker, more of an offensive midfield, like you said. Daunt on the right side of the midfield. You got Bittencourt out here on the left. And there was just kind of schematically, from whatever kind of happened in that sequence of events, you have a lot of things at play. You have a more aggressive offensive lineup. You have a 2-0 deficit, so you got to need to press. And these guys are coming out fresh. So you have a lot of fresh legs coming out in the mix, but it seemed like things kind of open up offensively. Nsimba kind of, I felt like, really kind of, I don't want to say developed, that's not the right word, but almost blossomed. You gave him a little more space, and then he really started to create some havoc in the offensive field, and then you started to get going with the moves, and him and Bittencourt had a really nice connection, it seems. They had a lot of overlaps, a little 1-2s, some handoffs between the two of them. And so that was really exciting. I thought Bittencourt helped bridge that gap between the midfield and the front line. That was fun to watch. And so just some quality offensive chances started to develop there. And then you kind of get that back to goal presence. So Ramsden kind of pinching up a little bit. Once again, linking that midfield to attacking gap to be able to facilitate and then dump it back out wide. So I thought that was a really interesting dynamic and really kind of threw Jacksonville for a loop there in that kind of 50-minute to 75-minute. And I thought kind of TSC kind of regained that possession. They had a couple good corners there, and they were kind of the attacking presence. And then you go to a couple minutes later, and then you get some more fresh legs as Ethan Stewart, another attacking-minded player, comes on in the 63rd for Fontenot. And so you're less than 20 minutes in here to the second half, and TSC kind of seems to be subbing wave after wave after wave. And they're getting some good chances, man. They're getting some corners. They're starting to generate some offense. And like we said, with this kind of new look, it was a really solid sequence from TSC. And then another one, you had another beautiful shot that was generated off of one of the follow-throughs of, I think it was one of the corners. It was like a second attempt, but Schmoker sitting about 25 yards out, and then he breaks out a big left foot, and it's just over the bar, man. You thought for sure that one was going on frame because there was a ton of traffic on this sequence of events here after he ripped it. So if that one's on frame and that one drops in the box, you know, you're looking at a potentially 70% chance that we jump on that loose ball and then bury that one in the back of the net. So that was a great looking sequence here for TSC. Took us into the water break, and Trent kind of big picture once again. You know, the mood was shifting. TSC, that they were more aggressive. They were going for it. You know, part of this is game dictation, and so I understand that. Jacksonville obviously taking the foot off the gas. And so that's what I was kind of most surprised about. Is, to me, you know, the old adage is the most dangerous lead in soccer is a 2-0 lead. And because you start to get a little complacent and, you know, if they get one more goal, they're right back in it. And they start to get some momentum. It almost seemed that the Armada kind of fell into that trap. They really backed off the gas. They had a couple opportunities where they would press forward and they would send some long balls out wide. But definitely it didn't seem, whether it was kind of schematically or just with the formation change and the personnel change, that maybe TSC matched up better. I know all these are little factors, so I don't know which one is prevailing or is kind of a cumulative sum, but it really seemed that they were essentially saying, hey, TSC, you got 45 minutes, you know, show us that you can score 2 goals. Because to me, that's kind of the way I felt. And then at least from the sidelines up at the box, man, that was kind of insulting. It was like, here, come get it. We don't think you guys can come get it, man. What was your approach? Obviously, you talked about the changes for the TSC side. Were you surprised by Jacksonville kind of taking a back foot intentionally? And, you know, you hear about teams kind of parking the bus, so to speak, getting 10 behind the ball. But did you think you would see it based on what you saw from the first half, knowing this is an offensive-minded Jacksonville team? And knowing that, hey, this is a team that got hyped up in the locker room, they're going to come out slinging.
Yeah, so I definitely thought that they were coming out a little bit slower in the second half. I thought that they would have their foot on the gas a little more. Like we said, it could have been 3 or 4 goals in the first half for the Armada. I thought that they would kind of try to pursue that just in case, you know, with these substitutions that TSC kind of put together a little bit more offensively, had some more chances, which they did. But yeah, I remember saying in the broadcast something along the lines of them parking the bus, and you're like, well, they're playing a little more methodically. And maybe that's you just trying to call it both ways. But yeah, no, I definitely was a little insulted and thought that they had a little more attacking prowess that they could have offered in the second half. But thankfully they didn't, because that allowed the Tallahassee Soccer Club Battle Lines to gain a little more momentum. Like you said, with that 25-yard shot from Schmoker, I mean, that looked like it was just going to drop any second in the back of the net. That was a heartbreaker for sure. But, you know, a great shot there from the captain, staying involved all the way up into the 75th minute. Yeah, I mean, the Simba in that attacking third was really vital there with Bittencourt. Would have liked to see Mr. Cy Fontenot, my cousin, get a little action in there with Bittencourt a little bit longer, but, you know, I'll talk to Coach Bruno, try to get you some more minutes, cousin Cy. We'll work on that, bud.
He's got your back, man. That's what you got. Love it, Trev. Put in the good word. And now that you bring it up, we talked about Schmoker getting the service going, and we talked about the 25-yard shot. I completely glazed over it. It completely escaped my mind just probably 3-4 minutes before the shot. he had a free kick over on the far side. You remember it was about 25 yards out. Of course, TSC was going right to left in this half, so they were going south to north, right to left if you're in the stands. And he had one over on the far side in front of the empty side of the stands. And, I mean, he puts a gorgeous ball across the face of goal. It goes just over the head of Ramsden, and it touches a Jacksonville player. He almost puts it in his own net. Like you said, you caught it during the commentary live, Trent. You said he almost puts it in his own goal, and then if he didn't touch it, his foot carried it just over Monroe's back, and it almost clipped David Monroe's back. He was up on the set play, and he could have clipped it in and potentially put it on frame. And so that was another dangerous chance that we just kind of glazed over there, man. But you talk about the captain putting some dangerous ones as he was really feeling it. Right before he got subbed off, he had a phenomenal service from those last 5 or 10 minutes, man. It's almost like he was a hot rod on the final straightaway of a long-term race, and he just went pedal to the metal, and then he was good to go, man. And that was a kind of a swan song for him. But I love the finish there, and that's when you really kind of had the feeling it's like this 2-0 game. Now, man, I could see some fireworks coming here from TSC, and kind of what we talked about, that mood shifting, and it really started to get you up out of the seats. I thought for sure that even more so than the 25-yarder out, and this one was delivered from 40, but that was a gorgeous, gorgeous ball. Man, that almost went. It had 3 chances to go in based on 3 players, very close vicinity on that one.
Yeah, what was really nice about David Monroe being subbed on as a center back, he pushed up on all the set pieces, the corners, the free kicks, everything. And it looked like Tallahassee Soccer Club, whoever was on the set piece, was trying to pick him out with his height and with his jumping, really. He really got up there and got after the ball. And he made contact on a couple of those set pieces. Unfortunately, just couldn't direct it toward goal. A little high on a couple of those, but he also had a defender or two man marking him. You know, they knew that he was the threat. But, yeah, that was really cool to see a defender come up and be such a vital part of the attack in the second half, you know. Not necessarily throwing the kitchen sink at the Armada, but, you know, using everything they possibly can to get a goal back, if not 2.
Absolutely. That's something that Monroe has done, you know, all throughout his high school career, and something kind of similar to Takari Davis. When he gets off the medical mend, that's something that he's going to bring into the mix as well. Great aerial player and able to win some balls in the air. So that's what I was just thinking. I was like, man, in a situation you could potentially have both Monroe and Kari in the box going after these balls, and you stick Ramsden into the mix and you stick Cy into the mix, and that's just a dangerous kind of foursome going after the ball, or second wave of potential headers that are going to get loose here. Also, I'm glad you brought it up, Monroe. Strong arm, man. You know, anything inside that 15-20 yard box we didn't see in the first half when he wasn't in, but we were getting those long throws from the side. And those are crucials. You know, you can essentially use those as a set play when you got somebody who can throw the ball deep and accurate, because he can get it into the 6, he can get it into the 18. Anything, we've seen him stretch it, even in the game the other day, you know, 25 yards off the touchline, even out far, far width. I mean, that's getting into the box, and that's all you can ask, man, to create yourself an opportunity. And when you have some people in there going after it, hey, man, balls bouncing around the box are dangerous living for the defense, good living for the offense, man. Keep it low, hit the laces, baby. Yeah, that's another cool dimension that they had going forward. But then we go after the water break, that 75th minute. What you feeling about the action then, man? Because then you're really kind of getting into that desperation stretch. You know, 15 in stoppage time, you know, that's the money-making time, man. It's get in or go home.
Yeah, absolutely, Joop. So I believe that was roughly when Jacob Schmoker was subbed off. Cole Red came on. There were a couple of corners, I think 2 or 3 right there just after the water break in succession, where Tallahassee Soccer Club was just fighting in the attacking third, couldn't quite pick the pass out, getting deflected out for corners. But, you know, Monroe was there. And like you said, with those big throws that he had, you go back and touch on that real quick. There was one where he was at about the 25 or 30 yard line. And I just remember, like, I felt like my eyes popped out of my head because he threw it almost all the way to the 6 yard box. I mean, that was impressive. Just wish if he had been there in the first half when the ball was going out wide, if he could have been there on one of those throw-ins to get it onto Justin Laird's head, to get it onto Cy Fontenot's left foot, I mean, what could have happened? So definitely going to be exciting to see how that attack progresses as the season continues. But yeah, Daunt with another big challenge there in the 78th minute. Kept the Armada from putting in a third goal. And then I believe Red took a great corner, almost found David Monroe in the 84th minute. Red coming on and immediately taking set pieces for the Tallahassee Soccer Club Battle Lions, and just real close to leaving his mark on that. What do you think about everything after this 75th minute water break there, Andrew Joop?
Yeah, it was kind of a little bit of open season. You had some kind of prodding advances from both teams. Another money save by Krembeck was in the mix as well. You talked about the big Daunt challenge. He was huge all night there, especially on the right side. But then I think the big storyline broke here late, my man. It was exciting. We talked about it at the top end. 89th into the 90th minute. So a little bit of a pressure cooker situation coming here. TSC got to get up on the ball. Goalie comes out just on the other side, on the defensive side of midfield. It's a beautiful service. Able to hit Nick Ramsden. He heads it down. And what happens after there when the ball's bouncing around just outside the box, man?
The rest is history. Cole Red leaving his mark in the first NPSL game for Tallahassee Soccer Club. Like you said, I initially thought it was the set piece from Krombeck. That happened just a minute later. They were right in succession. But, in the 90th minute, the ball's bouncing around. He's pushing all the way up, nothing to lose at that point. Right at midfield, sends a beautiful ball in, gets on Nick Ramsden's head, who had just come in a few minutes before that. Is known as kind of that back to goal forward, where he likes getting the ball and dishing it out to his teammates. He just got up for the header, heads it down. Cole Red takes a touch, kind of corrals it, but, there's a lot of speed and momentum on that ball being sent all the way from midfield. So as he corrals it, it kind of bounces up, and he realizes now or never, I got to take the shot. So he just catches it on the way up, probably about a yard and a half up off the ground, and it just kind of dips left to right over the keeper. It was just off his line. I mean, he really never had a chance, a prayer. And man, the crowd just erupted, went wild. I mean, they heard us all across Tallahassee after that one.
Absolutely, Trent. That one was a lot of fun. That was a big-time rip. And like you said, stepped in at one bouncer, wham! And like you think about it, if it was a video game, it's got like a vapor trail to it. And then it just clips the top of the net. And then the crowd erupted. And, we could describe it right here. But then also we could bring it in. This is exactly how it went down on Saturday.
This one's got to twist back into the field of play. So Krembeck's going to come all the way up to 50 yards from line and try to service to dump it back in. And it's time where Krembeck's got to come up, and Red with the foul. Oh! He drops the laces, and we got a ball game. It's a goal for TSC, and an absolute gorgeous one there. Cole Red, the new substitute, buries it here in the 90th minute, and TSC has a chance to come back and break even, Trent.
That was incredible. Play of the game, shot of the game. We're looking at the replay right now.
It just drops. It's
One
from about
touch.
25 yards out. Drops the foot, the laces curling down and away from the keeper.
And then right there, Trent, that is exactly when I lost my voice, my man. But excitement, unrivaled and well-deserved. Had to give him the shout out there. And it was just a phenomenal finish, dude. It was surprising to the maximum. Yeah, so really fun that everybody that stayed and lasted the whole 90 minutes, Trent, were able to fight through here for TSC. Cheer on the boys. Once again, Cole Red, baby. 90th minute, assisted by Nick Ramsden, and give the hockey assist there, Brandon Krembeck, the goalkeeper. So Trent, adding on to all those big saves, man, give him a little hockey assist for that one, a little dime for the keeper. And so we kept it on. Yeah, it wasn't it. We still had a couple more minutes stoppage time, with the yellow cards and everything else. So TSC down 2-1, man. There is hope. We got a ball game again. We were waiting for it all night. First NPSL goal ever. History making. That wasn't a superlative, Trent. Well, it was a superlative, but it was accurately done. So build up, historical, history-making Cole Red, first ever NPSL goal here for TSC. Nobody can take that away. And so we continue the momentum. Another free kick, a long one from Krembeck, getting to the box, desperation, ended up getting dismayed by Jacksonville. Long story short, boop, 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 full-time whistle, and it was all in the books. A sad feeling immediately. You get that sinking feeling. Trent, as always, a 2-1 defeat, like we said, for TSC, man. But thoughts post-game, take us back.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have that sinking feeling, honestly. Not, I was definitely discouraged that we didn't get the dub. I predicted 4-2. It was 2-1 the other way, so that was a little unfortunate. But really cool to see the excitement from the crowd and the reaction following the goal from Cole Red, the old field battalion, shooting off the smoke, getting everybody excited. That was just a really cool feeling to be in that environment, just really exciting, really uplifting. So even though the result didn't go our way, it was still something to build off of, something to go home with. It gave the fans a reason. If they had never been to a soccer game, if there's a kid 12 years old or younger going out to their first game, if they were there and they saw that, they're going to be hooked for life. It's like golf, whenever you go out there, have the worst round of your life, there's always that one shot that brings you back. Well, this was that one shot and ended up being a goal. So it was just an excellent game, really exciting to kick off the NPSL season, to just be back and playing football again in front of the fans in Tallahassee was just amazing. So I don't think there's really any negative perspective you can really give to the outcome of the match. I mean, they were never favored to win, like we said in our last podcast. So everything considered, I think that the Tallahassee Battle Lions can walk away feeling like this was a dub.
Oh, yeah. No, I wasn't trying to be dramatic with the sinking feeling, but, just the instant final whistle. Oh, man, because we talked about it post-game. You're like, man, if this game goes 100 minutes, well, obviously it doesn't, because those aren't the rules of the NPSL Southern Region Gulf Coast Conference that we were in, Trent. We had the feeling that TSC just started to take that game over. And it almost seemed like we talked about that the Armada didn't really want it towards the end of that one. But yeah, that was awesome. And like we said, fanfare and well-deserved. And like we talked about, a bigger win for the program and the club and the organization and the city and the relationship that they're continuing to build there and all those intangibles and all that cool stuff that we've been hyping up and building to is that win. And just like you said, man, that family, those kids, they're going to come back in 2 weeks when we're back around here at the swing of things to get things going for TSC after the little road trip. But it's some exciting stuff. And unfortunately, taking the L, no points gained here Sunday. And that'll essentially be the recap here, Trent. But I think accurately said, a lot of positives and I think fond memories taken out from the first game here, the NPSL with TSC. A lot of smiles still leaving the stadium.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ever really go home disappointed after watching a family member play. So he's very thankful for Cousin Cy and all of his effort and hard work out there Saturday.
You're really milking that, which I appreciate. That's some good stuff. But yeah, it talks about the community atmosphere that Trent, for Cousin Cy, give you that shout out. If he does listen to this podcast, it'd be pretty hilarious. He's like, man, who are those weirdos? They keep talking about me like we're boys, we're close personal friends. And he's like, man, I never want to come on that podcast for sure. But you say nothing but love, Cy. Hopefully we're not weirding you out. But yeah, man, interesting family affair out there and beautiful spectacle. And it was a lot of fun. And like you said, the Old Field Battalion representing, shout out. That's who we need to get on the podcast here, Trent. Get that Old Field Battalion going off. So that's the majority of what we have for the game recap. So as we talk about the Old Fields and we talk about kind of the fandom, Trent, I think we got to get into a little new segment we got going on, man. What do we got coming up next, Trent?
Stars of the game. We're going to each go through, have our big 3 player performances.
Star attraction. Star.
The stars of the game here for TSC.
Star attraction.
We're going to have you go first, my man. Give me one of your stars of the game.
Now, I'll start at number 3, and I didn't do this on purpose, but it's, believe it or not, Cousin Cy making the list.
Yes, sir.
Now, all jokes and laughs aside, he actually played incredible ball. I had never seen him play up until you went to the practice, I believe, this past Tuesday or Wednesday. You took a quick little 15, 20-second video just side juggling the ball, dishing the ball off, just messing around. And just from his touch alone, I knew that he was going to be something special on the pitch. And so just kind of weird how everything worked out, found out we were actually related. But no, he is an incredible player. I cannot wait to see him. And like I said, Matthias Bettencourt, I think that the two of them, their play styles are kind of similar. I think they'll really be able to feed off each other. Sai out wide, Bettencourt kind of more central in the midfield. But he was just one or two passes away. I mean, rephrase that. There was just a pass or two away from getting onto him where he could be in space, really create, either take a shot on his left foot, his favorite left foot, or dish that back post to Lucas Redding or Justin Laird, somebody coming onto the ball. So I think that that's going to be a main point of attack for the rest of the season. I think they're going to try to work the ball out wide and then swing it back through the middle. And I think Sifon is going to be a key part of that, as he was in our first game of the season.
There you go. I like it. I like it. I like it. I had to keep it in the family, for the stars of the game. Let me give you one. We talked about it. Talk about similar player to Sai. Really open up the offensive attack. Of course, didn't come on until halftime. We saw Matthias Bettencourt, of course, the McClay man, coming into the fold, making a semi-pro debut. Just 18 years old, dude. Just to think about how cool that would be. But man, like we talked about, opened up the offense and things started to get a flow, and really liked his play. So he's one of my stars of the game here, Trent, going forward and open up the offenses. I'm going to jump ahead and get another my star of the game. We'll snake it back like a little snake draft here. His McClay buddy, Drew Daunt. Talked about him all ball game, man. Defensive lockdown in the first half, tons of challenges, big wins. He had a tall task, as we saw a lot of times. Brown would come out to the perimeter. They would send a lot of balls diagonally across the formation, kind of similar to what TSC did, but of course on the other side. But man, a lot of traffic, a lot of key tackles, big moments, aggressive takes, and then in the second half, continued that, but also some more facilitation to the front line and some other big-time moments on the midfield. So my second star of the game, give me 2 stars for Drew Daunt. Trent, who you got on your side? Give me a little 2-star guy here.
Absolutely. Another defender, another guy who was getting into a lot of challenges, winning the ball and setting off the counter, was Aaron Wimberly, center defensive mid, number 16. And I remember when you were talking President Chris Petley, he was speaking about how he was the defensive MVP of the 2019 season. So I was very eager to watch this cat play. Thought he might be lined up as an outside back or a center back. He was a center defensive mid, kind of holding the play, branching the defense to the midfield into the attack. So he was very vital in the first half. I think he got subbed off right there at the beginning of the second. Definitely Aaron Wimberly was the defensive MVP for me of this game, as well as that 2019 season. What about you, man? Who you got number 1?
Oh, no.
Oh, I guess it's me number 1. We're going snake, huh? You want me to go on?
Yeah, I thought you were giving me the throne, man, but I'm going to say give it right back to you. Give me your 3-star performer here of the night, man, who's number 1 in the hood.
Yeah, for sure. Number 1, 3 stars, Mr. Cole Red, number 15. Came on, I think, at the last water break. Just a couple minutes left in the game. And, I mean, way to make your minutes count, son, getting out there. I think that was his semi-pro debut as well, if I'm not mistaken. And, I mean, that's a game and a touch and a shot that he will never forget as long as he lives. And I'm sure all of the 850 who are still left in attendance there with us on Saturday will never forget that one as well. So I wish I could have saw him play the whole game, but just in those few short minutes we had of him on the pitch, he definitely delivered. What about you, buddy? What you got for number 1?
Sometimes the brightest stars, Trent, shine for the shortest amount of time, like you said. So you can catch some heat for that, Trent. So I'm interested to see what the people say for the man dropping 11, 12 minutes. But I love it, man. How can you not go to the goal scorer with 1 goal on the tank? Because like we said, coming up, goal differential is going to play a factor, man. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, talk about my 3-star guy, the man between the pipes, dude. Hyped him up the whole broadcast. Brandon Krembeck, like we said, making that money, baby. The keeper, phenomenal effort. Can't stress that enough. Could have had 2 or 3 more for the Armada, and it really could have put the game out of reach, and it really could have been kind of we maybe wouldn't have had those big picture wins. But, I mean, we talk about going to ground, in the air, coming off his line, picking off crosses. all those check boxes that you want from a keeper, being assertive, being confident, communicating with the defense. I mean, check, man. And that's just really successful when you have a keeper like that would need some big plays. So that's my 3-star star of the game, Trent, here. Just a little fun with that one, but a shout out to those 6 guys for a phenomenal performance. Not that they were the only 6, Trent, but needed a special shout out for those boys. So we talk about our stars of the game, Trent, and it leads into an interesting question. I think a perfect segue based on what we talked about. We're going to have to go into the bag a little bit. The mailbag.
You got some mail.
Oh, mail's here.
But have you ever seen a mailroom?
We hyped it up in the last one, Trent. Got a little feedback from the people. Digging into the mailbag, of course, if you want to be involved in the mailbag segment here on the TallySCtalk podcast, you know what you got to do, Trent. You just hit the Gmail, baby. Tally, TALLYSC, talk, TALK, at gmail.com. You blast it up for the boys. Subject line, mailbag. Message, whatever you put in the message. Question, comment, concern, item for conversation. And Trent, a thrilling one, which I think is a beautiful segue, so I'll take the first one here as we jump into the mailbag. Get a little rustle here, like we're reaching into the mailbag here, shuffling around some different letters. Of course, this is electronic mail, and the way the USPS has been going lately, that's another conversation. But Brian from Tallahassee, subject, TSC mailbag, keeper controversy, ? Oh, I'm liking this already, Trent. Body of the message. Hey guys, thanks for finally bringing a TSC pod to the mix. Definitely needed it. I liked the first pod, but man, was it long. You guys know how to talk for a long time. True. No argument there. That was a marathon, so shout out to all the people who stuck around and that we're turning into a marathon podcast again. So this may be a thing that we'll have to split up into multiple segments. But that sidebar, that was the editor's note. Getting to my question, Brian says, based on a keeper controversy with Sloan, and he's talking about the youngster from Lincoln, eligible for match day 2. So, in this week, he's able to, after turning 16, be a part of the senior team. So he's eligible. Sloan eligible for match day 2 coming this week. Krembeck with the great performance, like we talked about, my 3-star guy here this week. And the beast from Wofford coming back. Who's gonna be between the pipes? Sloan, Krembeck, or Wallum? The referenced beast from Wofford, Trent. Any thoughts? Because I was going to say this is part of the game review. I think the hardest evaluation is Coach Bruno because he's got to figure out how to get all these guys on the field and who's to start, with who, in what position, in what formation. But that is a golden question, Brian from Tallahassee. Trent, I'm going to put you on base first, man. Your initial thoughts, fire it off for me.
Absolutely, Jupe. So, going back to the interviews we had with Chris Petley this past week, I recall him saying something along the lines of, when Skylar Sloan gets here, I mean, it's going to be his job to lose, more or less. That's not an exact quote by any means.
Yeah, I think you're taking that out of context. That's got a little Trent Young spin. He's going to have an opportunity to start, Trent. But continue your thought.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That was the exact quote. But, with that being said, I definitely thought that kind of regardless of whoever the man was in between the pipes, regardless of his performance, I thought Sloan was going to be the starter. I mean, there's a reason why this kid is 15. They're waiting, counting down the days for him to be 16 so he can get up there. So he's got to have something. But at the same time, I just don't really see how you can take it away from Krembeck after that incredible performance. I mean, not only does he have the saves, but he's also coming up with the hockey assist, taking another great free kick just after that.
There you go.
And, I mean, I can't speak to Grant Wallum because I haven't seen any of his play, don't really know anything about him, but I think he's going to be on the outside looking in on this keeper battle. I think it's going to be Tyler Sloan, the 16-year-old, and Krembeck, the MVP of the first match.
Dang, man. Interesting take as always, Trent. First of all, I want to address the elephant in the room that I think that wasn't really discussed is this is not a 3-man keeper battle right now. This is a 4-man keeper battle. You can't forget about Oscar Herrera, who's been in practice, and he's been absolutely killing it in practice, man. I think he's kind of your next man up right now. Of course, still Wallum yet to come back into the fold from college. So short term, you're looking at Krembeck, Herrera, and Sloan. And then when Wallum come back into the mix, then you'll have the full four. But I don't think there's a wrong answer to this question, man. You might be able to see a little bit of a hockey scenario, who's got the hot hand, or depending on the opponent or the personnel, or kind of a feel you're trying to go with for that specific week. Then you rotate, and then you can get some different keepers in. But this is a champagne problem, man. This is something good to have, but this is a tough decision for Coach Bruno. Something that I talked to him about the other day is this is one of the most difficult position groups to decide. You have these four guys all capable, especially with the experience, and especially when Wallum comes back in, man, it's going to be hard to do. So, of course, I dodged the question as I always did. But at least for the meantime, Trent, for me, I would roll with Krembeck just because he's your guy. Of course, got that performance here. But once again, I don't think there's a wrong answer to this question. And going forward, going to be really, really tough to see and to decide and to make a firm decision on. So, Brian from Tallahassee, appreciate the call, but one, don't sleep on Oscar Herrera, and two, this is a decision for Coach, man. I mean, we could talk about it and we can kind of go here or there and enter some possibilities, but that's really all we got, man. Trent, are you sure you're sticking to your previous argument, man? Or are you going to flip-flop?
Now that you mention it, I didn't realize Grant Wallum had been at Wofford for 4 years. I didn't realize that. So, playing college ball for 4 years consecutively definitely kind of gives him an advantage over somebody who's 15, 16 years old, still playing in high school, with all due respect to him. But that leads me into my point is you've got a couple more mature goalkeepers who are a little bit more seasoned, played a few bigger games. With the development of the U19 team, maybe Sloan is going to be the leader, the captain of that team. And so with them most likely projected to only keep 2 goalies on the roster, I think that could be where he ends up now that I realize how seasoned of a veteran Wallum is. Maybe we can just get Coach Bruno to shoot us an email, make this a little bit easier for us. So hopefully he's listening and has his email handy.
Or hasn't tuned off now that we're significantly over an hour for this podcast in total filmage for this week. But yeah, I think those are some good points, Trent. We want to move this along, reaching to, you want to rustle up in the mailbag? I'll give you the sound effect if you want to pull this one out, man.
Yeah, go ahead and give me that sound effect. Reaching in.
You got some mail.
Oh, mail's here.
But have you ever seen a mailroom?
I think I got one. Oh, no, I don't want that one. Okay, this email is from Tony, and the subject is, quote, Heisman Watch. Ooh. He said, "Sup, Frank? How did you like the stiff arm from number 9 on the first goal? Is he on the Heisman Watch, or am I being a TSC homer? Or did he really not push off that much?" So I will defer to you, Joop. What's your reaction to that question?
First of all, you can tell it's from Tallahassee because that's definitely a football fan coming through and shining in. Trent, hilarious. Definitely something that we could use going forward for the Heisman Watch. We definitely said stiff arm, but we didn't take it next level. Well, first of all, we're going to have to put some screenshots up. I think he did. Like we said, I mean, we had this discussion kind of in the mix here, so I think this is a good follow-up just for a little more clarity. But I think, like we said, it wasn't a soccer play. Full extension of the arm. There was no doubt. It wasn't like a little elbow. It wasn't a little kind of upper of the arm. Full extension, left arm, and you see it exactly, just like a Heisman would. So I say, no, Tony, not a TSC homer, though I appreciate the perspective that you can kind of remove yourself from that situation. Yeah, he gave him quite a sling, and it created the space to help the finish. So I say first goal should have been disallowed. And, put what's the boy's name, Brown? Started with a J, Giovanni Brown, number 9 for the Armada. Put him on the Heisman Watch there, Trent.
Yeah, so, I mean, I feel like I voiced my opinion pretty well on this earlier, but I think at this point in time, we should just throw up the video and let the fans make that call for us. What do you think? Take a little poll or something?
There you go. That'd be interesting. So we'll put it up on the TallySCtalk social media. Great idea, Trent. Look at you, businessman. Think a big picture. Firing up people, getting those social media hits. Yeah, we're going to do that throughout the week. We'll get a screen grab of it. We'll try to get a side-by-side, here a little still shot, maybe slow it down, put a little video in there, but you can see how the play was affected, Trent. But I like that. So you going blindly with the majority of the people? Are you entrusting them?
Yeah, Kate doesn't lie, man. I'll let them make the call. I spoke my piece. If you're still listening at this point, you forgot, and just rewind about 6 hours and you'll find it.
Got him. Self-earned there. Here we have it go for a while, though. Real talk. Yeah, man, I like that. So fire it up. Once again, TallySCTalk@gmail.com if you're trying to hit that mailbag. Questions, comments, concerns, topic of conversation. Once again, community podcast, just like the club, baby. It is for all of us, not just Trent and I. And also, make sure, shameless plug, at TallySCTalk on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have everything you need to know, potentially, and able to provide some interesting topics of conversation. So, Trent, any other thoughts on the mailbag?
No, just wanted to thank our guys, Brian and Tony, for shooting us an email. So if you're a listener at home and you got some questions, concerns, you think that we're wrong about something, yeah, blow us up. We'd love to hear from you, no matter what it is.
Absolutely. We won't big league you, man. We'll pipe you through here. Maybe even interesting in the future, get a little guest performance. Get a little feature from a little fan sound-off. We can try to work that into the schedule. So we see how this mailbag segment, it gets out of control, we may have to dial it back. But community podcast, we want to keep those lines open, so make sure to hit that up. Once again, TallySCTalk@gmail.com. Hit the boys up. We'll get to it. So, Trent, I think that's a nice wrap-up here. I mean, we've been through the game recap. We've been through our stars of the game. We've been through some big picture stuff. And we've dived into the mailbag and we heard from the people. I think this is a great opportunity to take a little break. Thank you for coming aboard for this little segment action. Trent Joop, Trent Young here on the TallySCTalk podcast.